Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 180 in a row of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I am your host. It's 11 p.m. Central Standard Time right now for me, which means it's midnight for Darick, but even more, it means it is 6 a.m. in the home country of our guest, Heiner Michels. Is it Michels? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's close enough. It's Michels, like it's the typically
Michels, okay.
German way to pronounce stuff. It's rough, so Michels. But
Well, I love that though, because I was going to open with a Guten Morgen, wie geht's, and I didn't want to expose anybody to my fucking terrible German.
Nein,
but here we are. Is that good? Is that good? But Heiner, thank you so very much for coming in and just hanging out with us tonight. And it's really fun for me specifically because this is, a couple of topics that are important to me and something that I think is interesting for the community as a whole that we'll jump into here. But first off, I need Darick to disappoint me one more time, baby. Do it. You know you want to. Did you do anything in Flesh and Blood, Darick?
No. And,
yes.
I mean, you already knew this because so the good news is I was really worried that my occupational therapy stuff was going to be eating up the time slot that I had just tried to open up, because my first appointment was on a Wednesday, but it was just for that one. So going forward, it's just Mondays and Thursdays except for the week of Memorial Day, then that'll be a Tuesday and a Thursday. So next week, it's open, but this week I couldn't. Like, I thought I had already told you that.
You hadn't, but
I had to. I had to do my precursor. For those who are not following me on BlueSky, so this is the arm that I tore the bicep on. You can see the nice little scar there.
Bowling, as a matter of fact, Heiner. He went bowling and tore the bicep off the bone.
So this is the arm that I have now torn a ligament in my elbow. It's the radial ligament, and I'm currently going through occupational therapy. And then they also did this really cool thing where they electrocuted me for 10 minutes. This was on Thursday. It's like an alternative to getting the cortical steroid shots. Instead, they do, I'm going to say it incorrectly, but it's iontophoresis. But basically, the medicine is negatively charged ions, and they put it in a patch. And then they put the patch on my elbow, and then they put a pad that was here, and then they just run electricity through it for 10 minutes, because the electricity with its negative charge and the medicine with its negative charge repel each other, and so it drives itself into your tissue. And it hurt.
Right.
I was electrocuted for 10 minutes. I had a blister. It is what it is.
I mean, I cut myself today because I was wearing gloves when I was cutting something, and you kind of lose the feeling of the knife. And I just decided that I needed to mix some blood in with the asparagus because apparently that's what I was trying to do the entire time, is a little extra seasoning, just a little extra iron. That's all.
yeah,
Jesus.
that's how the best recipes turn out to be invented. It's excellent, and
yeah, it's fine. I made a couple of racks of ribs today on my smoker, and then a 3-cheese asparagus risotto to go with it, and I ate the shit out of that. It was delicious, but I also bled in it, so there's that. But I actually just to make sure that I wasn't as big a disappointment as Darick, I just went to my armory and played one round and then left. So I did something in Flesh and Blood. It doesn't feel like we're in that lull period where we have a new set that's coming up very soon. And we just got through, basically, we're at the point in the ProQuest season where nothing else is probably going to LL, so there won't be any changes via that. So we're kind of in this in-between spot. And the in-between spots to me are the best times to talk about the other things that work with the game. And in this case, we have Heiner on, who is and I'm hoping I get your titles right. So I think it's CEO of professional card or premier card grading, Germany, correct? And then you're also the co-founder of White Rabbit TCG, right?
Yeah, White Rabbit Community Game Store. Yes, exactly.
Did I get them? So I got both the titles right?
Well, on the second attempt, the first one, yes, but in the end, you did. True. Yeah. Well, you know, titles it's something. I guess I've got my duties, and if you have to put a label on those duties, that pretty much covers it pretty well. Yes. So, yeah.
So let's jump in and talk about this, because I think it's interesting, not just to me, but it's interesting. We get a lot of questions about card grading in general, mainly because to a lot of people they think of it kind of as an inexact science, and it could be anything but. It is a very from what I know in my experience with it, it's a very data-driven approach. And it isn't just I look at a card and say, oh, this is this or whatever. And that's what people assume. People assume that, they pick up, you pick up this IRA, which is a 9/5, right? And you go, and somebody picked this card up and went, yeah, it's about a 9/5, and then put it in a case. That's what people assume. And it's not like that at all. And I kind of want to talk through that. But first, I got to know, why did you decide to jump in to card grading? Like, what drove you to do this?
Okay, I have to start a bit earlier than just doing it. In summer 2019, the 6 of us who ended up founding the White Rabbit Community Game Store, the first one in Essen, sat together because we are friends by way of playing games. Some of us TCGs, others board games, and then we've got the same pen and paper RPG round going on since I'm 15, so 35 years, same people, same 7 guys. And so a couple of those friends and the extended friends came together, and then we said, okay, let's do something different. We used to go to game stores when we were younger, and then we got into our professions, and one of us had the option to do something else with his life, and then we said, okay, let's sit down and see what we ever wanted to do. And then we had this whiteboard, and everybody put stuff on the whiteboard, and obviously a game store was on it, and we ended up doing that. But what I put on the whiteboard was card grading. And I was into the game store thing, obviously, but also for me, I've got an engineering background. So I studied mechanical engineering and metallurgics, and I'm a foundry engineer by trade. So I graduated around 2005, and then spent 15 years in research and applied research for metal casting. The processes, the materials, qualifying new processes for knee implants or materials for new turbine blades, or making the engines in the aeroplanes go lighter, so it's less mass to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that's my background. It's in engineering and scientific stuff, anyways. So the approach you can take in card grading, which you don't have to. I believe if you don't choose correctly, you might end up with a service doing it like you just mentioned. But I come from a certified institution where our research was based on principles that are on very high standards. We were ISO certified. So following procedure and evaluating results based on strict guidance is very important if you work with someone who's producing an aeroplane engine. they just don't have it any other way. So for me, the approach was different, and I found it very interesting that I could apply my approach, which I had learned at work and which I had learned to appreciate at work, to a trade closer to my passion. Which is, well, I'm a passionate foundryman, but I've been playing Magic, and cardboard stuff is in my world since 1994. So bringing the two worlds together was very exciting for me. And that, let me apply what I have learned, the skills, the analytical skills, onto something I love, which is cardboard. That's how.
I mean, that makes absolute sense to me. Honestly, it's so odd when, you have a passion, right? And then you have a course of study. You have this thing that you learned, that you mastered. You spent the 25,000 hours or whatever, and you're able to look at the one thing, and then go, wait a second. I think that this applies here. And then you do what you just talked about, and you find ways to apply it, and you created a data-driven approach. And I think that that's just fascinating, because I do it in my day-to-day life a lot. It's because I'm a trained public speaker. That's what my training is in. That's my education. And I've used that to bullshit my way into corporate America very, very well at this point. But at the same time, you look at the available means to you, and you use it as a way to learn more about the things that matter to you. And that's kind of what you just described. And I think that that's beautiful, honestly. It makes a ton of sense. Now we'll get to like White Rabbit, because I'm super interested in White Rabbit. But I know that, so Darick, did you have a follow-up on that one? Because you kind of looked intrigued.
I mean, not necessarily directly. It was just something that had kind of crossed my mind when he started talking about the preciseness and, following, a rigid set of rules, but then applying your trade because of the stuff that I do for work with our machine learning, data analytics, etc. I don't know why it had not crossed my mind before, but I was just thinking that I wonder how far away, and maybe it's something that you've even discussed, but I wonder how far away we are from card grading and even comic grading or other grading services using some sort of digital measurement as part of the process. I don't think it should replace the process, but just like as an additional scoring mechanism, right? Because like I could easily envision something where, you have a very specific camera lens, and then when you you place your card down front and back, it should be able to take the digital measurements, and depending on the quality of the program, along with the camera lens and etc., you should be able to take things to like the physical measurements, even down to the pixel. And that could be something that just gets factored in, right? Like you could still have the human touch, but then just say that it's part of the rubric or whatever. But that was the face I was making, Logan, when he was talking, and then when he was talking about how he applied his trade, and I was like, well, how would my job ever apply to this? And then that's where I was mentally landing on it. So, and
I don't know if they do this at PCG, but that already exists in other companies. They already do that.
Okay.
And have for at least the last 5 years. But and I don't share any trade secrets or anything like that, Heiner. We're not trying to get that far into the weeds or lost in the sauce. But is that something that you guys have thought about or looked into, or something that you actually do already? Is incorporate some of that machine learning?
So machine learning is a different topic, and there are some questions that are probably better placed with headquarters like Rob and Matt.
Fair.
But I can tell you this, from my perspective, coming from research, I take a look at everything that's out there to understand how it's done, what it results in, and think about, is this something we would like to do? So we are aware of these techniques and these methods, and we've set up a system that is working pretty well. So improving that system is something that is very natural. Continuous improvement is one of the main reasons why we run this like we do it. So we'll never hit the point where we stop looking to improve. But at the same time, this is, machine learning. And again, coming from the old world, I know that my old jobs, it's shit in, shit out. and you need what?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
You're right.
I can apply
you're
the
100%
best
right.
tool, and if do it the wrong way. So we are producing very consistent results across offices worldwide right now, but the effort is something that is always attractive to optimize. So I would like to better understand what is done, how it's done, what it means, and what applying it and transferring it to our offices means before I say, of course, we are doing AI grading or we apply machine learning. How much training are we talking about? How can we train if a new type of foiling comes out? That is just, we see one card. We've got sorcery as a game, which is a game I'm very passionate about. So I did take a look into the curio stuff. But then you've got such few cards coming in because they are so rare. And then would you train a machine to learn the card you get one or two offs into your office? Because it's a different type of production. Maybe I expect there will be an area of card properties, let's call it like that, like dings, and that will be universal to all cards, but there will be very specific things that we would need our understanding of. What does it mean that this card is how it is built, and see that beyond what the machine can detect. So it will always be in a good way a mix of machine assistance or AI or whatever, everything that thinks, everybody that thinks can go wrong. AI can too. It's not something that's always right, So we are having
that's why I was very strongly saying keep the human element, because I've got some horror stories.
Yeah, it's and that is why, and I believe when I came in from my old job, what I brought in was high resolution microscopy to detect centering. We are taking this measurement approach now where we have a scale we can use on a digital image for a microscope and measure more precisely and without any contact. It's contactless measurement, obviously, on a microscope. So when I realized what the industry standard was for centering, like you have these templates, you put the card behind and see what fits best, or you take a dial caliper and start scraping on your
an actual micrometer.
I guess this can be done like this, but I would think I have a better approach. So that is something we implemented very early on, and which I was happy to contribute to all the skill that was existing in understanding a card in terms of its defects. Was me. I have an idea for the measurement thing, and then everything beyond that, yes, it's if you don't look at it, you might miss something. So we're taking a look at it, and we will see where that brings us to. That's machine learning now.
Yep, and you speak about process improvement, which I do as a process engineer. I wear that hat too a lot of the time, and it's you're right. A continuous improvement is the only way that any business or any service can continue forward. So the fact that you're not basically stuck, because I'm not going to call anybody out, but I know that some of the other grading companies out there just stagnate a bit. They see their market share and go, great, and that's about it. They don't really try anything new or different, or they're thinking they're reinventing the wheel, which they're not. They're making a better axle, right? And that's, I think, where a lot of companies get lost. And it's just refreshing to hear that it's very clear to me that PCG does not rest on their laurels. You had your slabs at first, and people are like, that's great, but it doesn't fit in all my boxes. So you answered that. You created the player slab, and then people like, well, those are really cool, but they're just a little too thick, so they, I can't have all my equipment. Okay, we've got an answer for that too, and you made the slims. And so the fact that you pull the LSS stunt of listening to what people say and then do it, that's impressive to me, right? I have stuff sitting all over the place, but this is graded by TCG. And I also have stuff sitting on my desk that's graded by Beckett and PSA and CGC. So I have a lot of things to compare with. And, I'm definitely not kissing ass or anything when I say that your product that I'm getting back feels like it's higher quality.
Oh, thanks.
When you started doing this, was that something was that like a first thing where it was like, we are never compromising quality? Because it feels like there is no compromise here. It is the quality is ultra consistent from you, whereas I don't see that from everyone else. Was that kind of a guiding principle to start?
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, it's one reflection of the same set of reasons why, White Rabbit grading would have been something based on a similar skill set. Can't be worth anything. What convinced me to get into this in this configuration was what Matt and Rob and all the officers had already achieved: a consistency and a globally appealing brand based on a thinking that involves quality and innovation at the same time. Because that is something I've learned from my old job, is moving some things is just impossible because the mindset of the top brass is not there. And we have put in, and my approach was the same. The product is on par with everything out there and in parts superior. The design is extremely good of everything. We've got the metal labels, and I can tell you this: producing the metal label alone for the collector's lab is it's not a simple process, but it's
No.
the extra effort is put in full awareness that it is not the process that gives us the best efficiency economically. We could make more money if we did it different, but then the product wouldn't be what it is. And to us, the product is what needs to stand out, and then everything else falls in place. We will have to learn to optimize the methods and the production lines and everything along the way of producing this level of product, and not compromise on any sort of quality and then be like everybody else, or be something that is just in existence like White Rabbit grading would be. It might even put out something similar, but it's not as appealing and it's not strong. We need this to be. We have 7 offices worldwide. That is something that's an approach that's unique, and it serves the markets locally, and it presents its own challenges. But it's working together with experts, from around the world. If I have something like I get a one-piece card of a set somebody was taking back when they went to where that set is already available, and I don't have any card stock from our stores, so I call up the guys in Southeast Asia and say, look, we've got this card. Can you give me any insight? And I bet you this, within 2 hours I've got a reply, and that's a proficient reply. So we are working extremely closely together to achieve our goals and to just find these synergies and use them, because we are working at Worlds once a year. Everybody comes together from all offices, and that's a great experience, and that also has effects throughout the year. So it's we are an extremely good company, and that's, I love the White Rabbit brand. It's super strong, but grading needed something different. It needed something that has worldwide appeal, whereas White Rabbit is considering it's a local game store. That's why we build it. We do something for the locals, and then sure, of course, we've had our experiences beyond that, but grading needs to have the global approach and then dribble down to all the local, the countries and the regions and the territories and whatnot. And that is the thinking Rob and Matt put into place in the first place. And that's it's them heading this ship, and it's their attitude that got me in. Their spirit and approach in this business and this trade, also bringing their passion together with what they see as can be run as a business, and we do run as a business, but it's a mix of passion and business. And the best things in life are, if you just waste your life away being in a company which you don't really love being in, maybe reconsider, So this is the result of good leadership we are seeing here.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good point, is the conscious decision to not have any underserved markets. You are a global brand. Yeah. And by that, I mean, you literally have people in every corner of the globe that there's an office there that people, can submit their cards to, knowing that they're not having to travel, tens of thousands of miles or anything like that, nothing crazy. And I think that's good peace of mind for people. Is that knowledge. I mean, granted, sometimes it doesn't work out. Like, I wanted to give you cards when I was in London, and you're like, you don't want to pay that shipping. And it's like, yeah, it's a good point. I probably don't want to pay that shipping.
And now imagine being in Europe, trying to have something graded and having to ship across an ocean, and then it's not just shipping. Shipping is ridiculous as it is, but it's tariffs and everything. The shipping is easily more expensive than the services. If the service is calculated fairly, it's around about what we are charging right now. But in Germany, this upcharging model, where you have, your card's a 10, why don't you give me like 4 times the money we allocated when you said you wanted this graded? It's just not possible. You have to be aware what you're paying if you place your order. So it's a fixed price. But then shipping tracked and insured up to €2,500 is more expensive than the service.
Right. And that's just not a thing, right? Like, that's very difficult to do. And we even see that domestically here, where I shipped 3 of these boxes to Esparti Tharianto in Indonesia, and it was $70 for me to ship it, and it weighed less than a pound. And then he had to pay like another $8 to get them, and it's like, why? It's boxes, they're empty. Like, there's nothing in them. Dear God. Shipping is egregious, but obviously you have a passion for this, and I mean, you wouldn't have kind of jumped into it if you didn't, right? And so why, in your opinion, what are the best reasons for people to come up and get their cards graded? Like, what is, in your mind, what's the value of the service to the customer?
So one thing is definitely, the question is, do you want to keep the card or do you want to not keep the card? That pretty much brings you on 2 different routes here. But I believe protection is one thing that is unmatched when it comes to the card state. Protection and preservation. The card is protected and it is preserved. And if I look at how cards are handled when we get them in and stored before we get them to preserve them and protect them, I understand that many cards probably need this. Like,
I'm one of the most guilty people in the world of this. So
we've got right. There are these resealable inner sleeves from Dragon Sheet where we have the 3rd flap going in. Please, if you love your card, don't use those. It's it's an extra level of friction to get the. I mean, if it's a card you never would consider, how can I say this, that the state really matters just to play it and safely,
Right.
sure. It's good for many cards, but if you would like them and to have them graded at some point of time, for the surface it's not ideal. You know, it's penny sleeve top loader. That's enough. And too tight inner sleeves lead to damage on flesh and blood cards that is just not repairable. It's
edges, corners, friction on the surfaces.
It starts to warp. You know what the card does is, if it sees humidity, it can pringle. You know, that. So that is like it changes its dimensions, and if it wants to change dimension and it can't, is constricted by such a tight inner sleeves, it will warp and deform, and it will create like an S shape where it's very irregular, but you can imagine it like a wave. And you can't get that out. That is serious surface damage. And you can't really practically avoid humidity depending on where you live. And you can avoid using a too tight inner sleeve, because our business is not restoring card state, it is checking card state and preserving it. But we can't fix those issues. And I've tried things, to understand this, and I believe it really can't be fixed. You can take a 10-ton press and put it between paper sheets. It won't fix it for like 3 weeks of pressure. It's not fixable,
Yeah.
So we get a card and we preserve it, and from that point on, there's really very little that can happen to the card, except for you throw it into a volcano, or it just bring it to the deep sea.
Throw it in Mount Doom, or it's the One Ring, and we're just
then
like,
it's gone.
Fuck it.
It's and of course there is a level of protection that is added onto what's happening, but there is still things that can happen. If you take a drill and you drill through the slab and through the card, it's going to be damaged. But for regular appliance, like storing it away or putting it off in the shelf for your kids to get one day, that's the best way to do it. So preservation and protection, and in a way that you can still play with it. That's where we as players and collectors come from. You saw it, you showed it. It's the player slab. You can still play with it. You can still apply it to its original purpose. Like, you can still play with the card. That is good. So if you want it protected when played, you use the player slab. And then there's the other branch that is, well, maybe I want to give it away, so it's authenticated if it's in a slab, very clearly. We have to be able to authenticate the cards, which is for Flesh and Blood, because we've been there from the get-go, and we are working so well together with LSS in everything. Very very robust, and I would say it's a 100% effective that we can authenticate cards. And then, of course, you have, if it's a 10, it's good. It's it's something that can add value to the card, because not so many cards are 10s. But I wouldn't put that for Flesh and Blood in the first line as 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. That's not the goal I would recommend somebody to have in Flesh and Blood for a card. That might be something for Vice Schwartz they are looking at. They just want to, because production process is different, gameplay is different, so the goals depend on the item you're collecting, actually, the TCG you are collecting. And that's it. Some cards, there are so few. Like, we got Taylors in from London, the 2 winning cosplay contestants. They entered their cards, and it's like we've graded a good amount of Taylors as PCG throughout the years, and I love that card. So it's always nice to see it turn out a 9/5. And at that point of time, if you have that one of those very few cards, you want it protected. And it's good if it's a 9/5, but if it's a 9, it's still worth $2,000 or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have the cards that you really want to see the tens on. Or we got in a Pokemon collection lately that was everything between 1 and 10. So he had very old cards.
I love the ones. The ones are
seriously
awesome.
damaged cards, but first edition cards.
Yeah.
And he said, well, maybe they decided, okay, from this point on, I want to put it into a slab, and nothing else happens to it anymore. Maybe it's his
Right.
collection. We've got a vintage collection from Magic, which the buyer wants to sell. So he wants it all authenticated, and he does not want any discussion on the state of the card, be it authenticity or yeah, but this is not near mint, this is mint, or it's good or light grade.
Right.
So it's a set standard, and there is no more discussion really about authenticity. And so the reasons are manyfold, if that's the word. I know twofold is a word. Maybe manyfold is two. So
Manyfold is a word. You're good.
It's not just that one reason you do. Go for a 10 and add value to your card. That's maybe one thing most people are looking for, but it's not. It's not the approach you should. And if you go that way, probably pick a different service provider, because we are not shelling out the tens. I get a card, I look at the card, I do what the standards are set me doing, and then I get to the result I get to. You know, if it's your card or anybody's card, James's card, it's just, it comes out what comes out. Too many tens, it's just not working for the system. It's not why we got in here. You know, it's...
Yeah, sure. You don't want to water it down. I mean, but yeah, if it's a 10, it's a 10, but you're not going to force the issue.
Effectively, I don't want anything from the grade. I just want to see what the card says, and then it gets a grade. I don't want anything. I don't want any value. I want to do a good job seeing. I don't want to miss anything on the card. You know, that's what I want, and I want a good correlation between what I see and what it results in. That's my goal, and then we've got a result.
And the result is what the result is. I mean, there isn't anything else, right? Like it's an empirical process. You are applying a set of standards, and that's the number. It doesn't matter anything
personally,
beyond that.
I'm happy if it's a 10, but during the process, I don't care. You know, and I'm sad if it's a very rare card and it's like a 7. Of course, it doesn't make me happy if it's a 7, but it is what it is. And
yeah, and then the integrity of the system is more important, and the integrity of and players being able to know that when they submit a card, it's being looked at the same as every other card. There's no difference. There's no shift in the process. The process is what the process is. Because there's been plenty of scandals in the industry about where people were paying for grades. Like, that is a thing that existed. Sadly. And so I think it's important for people to realize that, you know, not everyone, you know, that is an outlier. That is not the way that the business operates. But the fact that you're committed to that empirical, engineering driven approach, if you will, is just a good peace of mind again for anybody that's really looking into this, in my mind. Though that's my 2 cents. Darick, do you have at least 1 more cent to that?
No, because I appreciate fully that services like this do exist, and while they are things that I have used in the past, for me personally, I am the opposite end of the spectrum. I am the person who loves my Dragon Shield resealable inners, and I know it's going to warp the cards, but as somebody who also likes to play with his foils in Flesh and Blood, I need them all kind of warped the exact same way.
It's true, actually.
And so that's the only way that I get it to pass the judge deck checks, because unfortunately there are several cards that I own some foils for, but not all of them, right? So when I want to play with those cards all together, And I'm definitely I like to play with my cards guy, right? And so I've said on this podcast several times, like, unless something catastrophic happens, for the most part, like, I'm holding on to the stuff that I play with frequently. So now, that being said, I have had cards graded in the past. It's not like I'm, anti it or whatever, but I just also know that it is traditionally a more rare occurrence for me, because I just don't like resell things often.
Good
no,
point,
I mean, I don't either. But I like, so there's some things, so like, this is CGC, so don't hold that against me. But
how dare you?
Fuck off. And so, but I wanted to get, so this is the original XXX promos that they did from like the first Seal Calling or whatever. And I just wanted one that was a 10. One, so I kept getting them off the prize wall and submitting them until I finally got one graded as a 10. So the temptation is to take this to PCG and be like, all right, break my heart, like, see what happens. But I think it's just funny because it's a token that I had graded because I was obsessed and wanted a 10 from a token. But it had to be like a weird token. So here it is, a weird ass token. And so it's fun stuff like that. I think that that's also something that people do, right? I think that it's Dex that actually is trying to get his Reinar equipment graded so they're all 6s.
That's
because
fantastic,
it's Reinar.
That happened,
right?
Yes, that happened in one instance.
That's incredible. Or Mara has, I believe it's her gold foil flame scale furnace, where the grade is wrong. We know the grade is wrong because it just accidentally got a 7 stamped on it because something got mixed up in the system. And she showed it to Matt, and Matt's like, no, that's wrong. We can reslab this or whatever. And she's like, absolutely not, because there's no one else that's going to have a gold foil 7. So absolutely not. So fun stuff like that is also a part of the grading purpose for me, right? Like, that's cool. That's just fun shit, right? Speaking of that, Heiner, how much are you looking forward to seeing the treasures from High Seas come across your grading desk? Like, how big is the freak out when you see the double-sided Bravo come across the first time?
I guess I'll make a video and show you when we get them. But I mean, James entering these cards into the set is just amazing, and I believe we'll be as hyped as everybody if we have them in our hands. So we're all passionate. This business is carried by passion. We're gonna be very excited.
Yeah, I think especially the ones that are things that we've never seen. So like the double-sided Bravo, like the double-sided Library, those I think are very, very
I just
fun.
hope they will be discovered, That's some
same, actually.
I promise I will mail it in when I pull it. I will be one I will get graded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got that.
I am not going to be. I am actively opening every treasure pack that I get, and I also, if anybody's out there that's just like, I just want to sell my treasure packs for $20 a pack or something like that, it's like, yeah, ship them here, fine. Yeah. Let me have my lotto tickets. Give me my scratchers. Daddy Hungy, give me scratcher. I think that's just way too much fun, and I love that James did that. Right? Like, what a crazy thing to do, to go, we have this reprint policy. How do we get around it? Oh shit, I'll just pull it out of my binder. Duh. Of course. Yeah, we all would think that way. But I'm really looking forward to all of that, and High Seas is going to be wild. Like, I just think it's going to be wild. But as a quite quick segue, did I hear that right? I get to see you in Philadelphia?
Me?
Yeah.
I would have loved to go, but I can't. Worlds probably, right?
That's Worlds, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure yet, to be honest.
Well, you said that PCG gets together from all the offices at Worlds.
Yeah, it's my mother's 91st birthday this year.
Bring her
on the 15th. Well, I'm in between decisions right now, so I don't really know.
We will gladly hang out with your mother.
Yeah.
I would have a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe that's an approach. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just get the Irish people together again. And what can possibly go wrong with Kuba and the crew and your mom? And no, absolutely not. What could ever go wrong? Nothing.
No words. Yeah, it's still, that's that's a headquarter decision where and how we run Worlds. But we've done so the last 2 years. 2 years.
2 years.
For the first Worlds, it was the local office running it basically, and then the next 2 years, Barcelona and Osaka, we came together as the worldwide team. Yeah, and this year, well, probably would be best to have Rob or Matt on the show and elaborate on that question, how Worlds is being run at some point of time.
I mean, once we get closer, I might just bug Matt, but I just think it'd be, obviously, we got to hang out, but we got to hang out in London. And it was a blast. So I selfishly want you to go to Philadelphia.
Oh, I would love to. It's just, I've been to every Worlds so far. So if I wouldn't go, it would be very sad for me to personally not be there. I've been there every time. But it's a tough decision.
Yeah. Or you could have come to Vegas with Az and I, and that would have been horrifying.
That is, my friend, when I will be at a concert, at a festival actually, and will spend my time with friends listening to good rock and metal music.
But say, is it a metal? It's a metal festival. Even better. Even better.
I was quite tempted though when S wrote he would come. I said, man, maybe, but then I just can't.
Yeah, I'm not 100% I'm going to live through that, but that's fine. I mean, I can think of worse ways to die.
Yeah.
So let's hop into White Rabbit really quick, because White Rabbit Community Game Store is I want to say one of the larger game stores or game concerns in all of Germany, to my knowledge. Which my knowledge is limited. That's why I'm asking questions. But it kind of also seems like it's the epicenter of the German flesh and blood scene. And I get all this from Sofsky, so if he's wrong, then it's his. If I'm wrong, it's his fault. I'm just gonna blame him. Love that guy, by the way, great dude. But we're finally seeing something that we haven't seen in decades, and that is the return of cash card tournaments to Germany. How huge is this? Like, how big is this for Germany? Because I think there's a lot of people that don't have like the sort of context of how hungry Germany has been for these types of events. So how huge is this?
Well, imagine sitting in a concert and the veil hasn't lifted yet, so everything is still just preparing to start, and you don't know how the play will play out. Everybody's excited, you know where you are, and you know this is a very huge thing, but we don't know yet, to be honest. The excitement is huge, I can tell you this, but in our lifetimes as players, we have never experienced what is going to happen. We've never had prize tournaments in Germany. So who knows what will happen? It is huge. How huge, I can't tell you. But I am absolutely excited to find out. And the excitement alone is just spreading. Everybody is curious. It's curious how big it will be.
Right.
But it's it's the sheer fact that they LSS put in all this effort to successfully argue that it is a skill-based game in itself is just tremendous. That they did it and that it worked. And now we will see what fruit comes out of that. But it is well deserved. Not every game could argue this, and I believe some will try and maybe take it as a blueprint. But
some have tried.
If it gets into the details, I don't think many games will successfully be able to argue on the same line of reasoning.
No.
So it speaks to the game and to the company running the game, that I imagine this taking a lot of effort. So, Germany is pretty well embedded. In other countries, you can run prize tournaments. We met in Prague, we can meet in Belgium. Everywhere prize events are not an issue. So they still wanted to show, and they still managed to show that it's skill, and it's happening in Germany now, and that's great.
Yeah. I met so many players from Germany when I was in Prague, and a lot of them did comment that we had to drive 10 hours or take an 8-hour train or whatever, and they said, and I'm like, yeah, well, maybe someday they'll be like calling in Munich, and they're just like, well, there won't, you're just kind of like, no, that's not a thing that'll happen. And to have it be a thing, that Hamburg is going to have a calling is incredible. And I honestly believe, this is kind of my called shot, but I honestly believe that the calling Hamburg, when it comes, will be the largest calling in history. The reason I believe that is what I saw in Pro Tour London. It was the largest Pro Tour ever, followed by a nearly 1,000-person calling, followed by a capped battle hardened that was living legend. And you were in that room too, the entire time, and it was full the entire time.
Yeah.
And I believe that's bellwether. I believe that is a signal for what we're going to see in Hamburg. So with that being said, what has growth been like locally over the course, call it the last 2 years, call it like Fab 2.0 forward? What has it looked like in Europe from your point of view, in Germany, in Europe? What has growth looked like for you?
Well, on a data-driven approach, I would need to say I don't have enough information to really say anything about that, because LSS has the numbers, and if we, seeing how can I say anything locally? In our stores,
like from a store approach. Yeah.
Store approach, it's very constant. Communities are very robust, and they are growing. It's not like spiking. It's a steady and rather slow than quick growth, but that's nothing bad. We're talking about a very competitive game. It's easy to learn and hard to master. That is 100% what describes it, and that is nothing I came up with. It's been from the very early times of the game, and that's true. And so we've got this very competitive setup. We don't have any casual play, not really, and we don't have PvE, and we won't have for quite some time, if we will ever have it. So we are really, LSS is focusing on this competitive level of play, and that is where they are excelling beyond, apparently. Yeah. But that doesn't make it very easy for new players to enter necessarily. We've got the armory decks, so people come in, and we have an influx of new players. That's good. That's needed as well. But it's not like it's spiking locally in our stores just for some reason. But it's doing well, and that's very important. And then if we meet and I see 1,000 players at an event where there used to be 600 2 years ago, well, that shows a meta trend in everything, and that ripples down to every store there is. It's keeping its position, and it's expanding, it's growing. It's a really good game, People
yeah.
So if you're into a different IP, you are playing that different IP. We had people playing Flesh and Blood, and then Star Wars Unlimited came out, and there are these huge Star Wars nerds, and they only have X amount of time, and so they spend their amount of time in Star Wars now. But the game is excellent, and it is doing really, really well, and we've got new players coming in, yes. But there's a, Tim Sofsky. He's part of the German Discord server. So the Discord used to be the place where everybody would aggregate, and we could very clearly see if the game is growing or not, like during the pandemic. Since then, it has, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the central position of the server has been diluted. So there is local communities now, and we just can't deduct from the numbers on the Discord anymore the growth of the game in Germany. But the sheer fact, we've got a battle hardened in Munich coming up. So southern Germany is being activated more and more and more. And that is great. That is growth as well. We get more game stores in, and we redistribute activities. We've got more and more battle hardens, which is great, because that also, those are not empty events. Those are crowded events. So
no, those are crowded events.
And they are not just in our peripheral anymore. It's like going to north and south, and hopefully Berlin will pick up the ball at some time, and they will running events as well. So there's growth everywhere, yeah. And it's healthy, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not the spike that needs to crash at some point of time.
Well, because it's in your backyard, but at some point in time you may see Flesh and Blood at Spielessen, like
They did last year.
But like a battle hard in there.
Okay. Yeah.
Something monstrous, something huge.
Yeah.
Because I know that because Alex Watkins, we'll have him on soon too again.
Cool.
Because he's lovely dude, great guy. And so we had him on last year when they started rolling out the convention stuff, and he kind of went over what they're doing, and we talked about Spiel, and so but we talked mostly about Gen Con because, and we'll get to that here in a moment, but because that's local to us and also sort of a bigger thing. But I was thinking about, okay, well, what are they going to do at the other big ones? Is it the same type of thing? Are they, I know that they're using Gen Con as a platform to launch new things, but these other conventions deserve it too. And so that's one of the things I want to talk to him about.
They had a booth in Essen that was great. And for all future plans, he can elaborate better on. But I'll grill him. It'll be good. Yeah, but it's I believe over the years it's an increased presence, and LSS understands that focusing on the core and then expanding from the core what they are doing is the approach that's feasible to them, and I believe to most things. So that's great, and I believe we can observe this, and I also believe we can continue to observe this. So I believe there will be HP. Yeah.
So I think the other couple of quick hits here. So product localization, we talked about this on our show, and then we had a lot of people kind of chime in. It's like, well, what does that mean to anybody? I'm like, okay, well, they're going to stop producing the game in these languages, German being one of them, which is disappointing to me because I want German foils of everything. So if only I knew somebody in Germany that had a bunch of German foils that I could acquire them. If I just knew a person, Heiner, if I knew a single person.
What?
I need German foils, damn it, because they don't curl.
Yeah.
Because they have the flash foiling, yada, yada, yada. But I have a German foil blood splattered vest around here somewhere, and there's no curl because it's foiled to the border. And so it's because they inverted the foil layers. Now it doesn't curl. And I also will cop to using hard inner sleeves for the cards I play because I play a bunch of foils, and it's the only way to keep to pass a deck check. But from what I heard from people, is that even in those locations, so Italy, Spain, France, Germany, they were still wanting the English versions of cards more. it just seemed kind of contradictory to me. But I wondered, like, is that what you saw? Is that in your localization that it's like people wanted the English versions
100%.
more? Huh. Why do you think that is?
So we're all speaking English fair enough now, and we're understanding
True.
it even better. So if you have a card, in the early days of the game, there was no German version, so everybody got used playing English cards. And it's the same as in Magic back in the day, we didn't want German cards. And if they put out the black bordered, foreign black bordered print, we just didn't use it. We bought revised. and
I was chasing foreign black border stuff the entire time.
So we just didn't. Translation was terrible as well. It was
it was really bad. Yeah.
So there is no. If you speak English, if you understand English fair enough, you will always go for the original language. Translation errors is something that you only encounter on localized cards. And handling the cards at an event is also easier. It's like people are going to international events. It's an English game. In store, people of course talk German, but the English is the regular, the German is the irregular. It was a good approach to attract new players into the game, which might not enter the game if it was only in German, but that is more important for casual gameplay, and we don't see that much of casual gameplay. If you decide playing this game and you go to Battle Hardens, you go to the Netherlands, which is nearby, Belgium, Poland, Czech Republic, so whatever, it's not gonna be German cards. You need to be able to handle English cards if you are engaged into this game on the next level. For casual play, that would be different, but it's not a casual game right now.
Okay, I think that was the tissue I was missing, was that, this is, we talk about this a lot, where yes, this is a competitive game at its heart. That's what Flesh and Blood is. That's what it was designed to be. And I guess I never drew the through line that, like, yeah, of course English is more sought after because that's what the game plays at the international level. So why wouldn't you want English? It's like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. I want German because I think they look cooler. Because they do. That's just a fact. And, but no, that does make a lot more sense to me. And I think that I was having a hard time articulating that to others because I didn't understand it. But yeah, that helps out a ton. So thank you for kind of clearing that up a bit. And also, congratulations to White Rabbit Games Community Game Stores as the hosts of German Nationals this year. Are you excited?
Oh, of course we are. Of course, yeah. Yeah, 3 in a row. Third time's the charm, right?
Yeah.
That's how the saying goes. Yeah. No, it's cool.
Well, it's probably going to be bigger. Yeah. And is Germany open entry? I guess I didn't
it's qualified
look ahead of time. It's qualified? Okay.
It's a 160. There's this. States is obviously as big as the whole of Europe as an event, which makes also sense in terms of population and everything. So it's a different kind of national beast. But for the rest of the world, Germany is like the biggest tier you can have. It's 160.
Yeah. Yep.
And
so that's very exciting. And because you guys probably also have a Worlds qualifier then as well at your event. Yep. Okay. I don't think I'm going to fly there for it, but it's tempting.
If you can do commentary, you can do casting on the stream if you would like.
We will talk about that. That is an option. Can always do it remote as well.
Yeah.
But
I have a passport.
Yeah, I do have a passport. I might have papers. We'll travel. I say that. It seems like I've been saying that a lot today.
I keep having to remind Logan that we lead off with that we have a passport because he's not used to this casting thing.
We lead off with that. I get it. Yes, my passport is valid. I have global entry. Nothing will be an issue. The only issue for me will be getting back into this country potentially, which kind of a feature, not a bug. let's do some quick hitters before we hit to some questions. So the Gen Con events were revealed. They're doing their Smash Palace launch events on Thursday and Friday. Darick, are you coming to Gen Con? You never told me.
I honestly still don't know yet. That's part
that's
of
probably
the reason why I
me.
haven't told you.
Yeah. And Heiner's not going to come to Gen Con. You should.
I know.
But
One day. It's on the
One
bucket
day?
list.
Have you never been? It's a thing.
Yeah.
They're also doing sealed super armories every day. Well, they're doing super armories every day, so those all come with the convention promos, which I believe are Rainbow Foil, Extended Art, Young Puffin, and Marlins. And then they're also doing a full box Guardian Mastery Pack Crack Shuffle Play event. Darick? Guardian Crack Shuffle Play? Darick?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And it's just all Guardian mirrors. I don't even have to worry about running into a single illusionist. It's just everything.
You just get to pound the hole, yeah. You just get to be a Guardian the whole time and play with the new Macho Grandes, which look great. They look fantastic. And what's the other thing that you were gushing about? That block card or whatever?
The
Crash something.
Crash, yeah.
Y'all are just sadists. That's all I have to say about this.
No, that card like slaps, dude. It's Crash and Bash. Crash and Bash.
You're the type of people that want to play Guardian mirrors. You're sadists. That's all there is to it.
They're fun.
No, they're not. They're as fun as watching the EKG of somebody that you love dying.
I would rather play a Guardian mirror all day long than I would play like a Dromai mirror or like a
I would
Phi
rather watch
mirror.
flies fuck. Like, I think that would be far more entertaining to just watch a couple of flies copulate for however long it would take for a Guardian match. You know what? There's actually quite a few things I would rather watch flies fuck than. I really should have thought that out more.
Yeah.
But and now we're off the rails, and Heiner's like, shit, what did I?
Maybe
what
those
did I
were
sign
the
up for,
rails, and we're
motherfucker?
just hitting them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah,
kinda.
I mean, we are kind of behind. Normally, Logan starts talking about Jeff Goldblum copulating much sooner in the podcast, but
I wasn't talking about Brendlefly.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude. All right, well, I guess I deserve that. The intriguing part of all this, and Greg, it's probably one for the supercut because if I remember right, we brought this up. Is there is a classic constructed ProQuest on ProQuest Plus on Saturday, and a Blitz ProQuest Plus on Sunday. So, if my memory serves, when we were having this discussion a year ago with Alex Watkins, we brought up that it'd be cool to see, like, you know, not like a calling or a battle hard, but like a ProQuest, like a ProQuest Plus at Gen Con. I think that'd be really cool. You know, like do maybe a Blitz one so people, you know, it doesn't take as long and people can still enjoy more of the con.
Yeah.
And here we go again. And they don't pay us.
Yeah.
This is bullshit. But I am glad to see it. I think that it's a good idea. I like how they do the climb the ladder so well at these conventions with the learn to play booth into, you know, first strike decks or blitz games, however you want to do it, into having these, here's a sealed event. And now you kind of get used to that, knowing heroes and a little bit deeper understanding of the game. And then it's like, we also have this event, you know, that allows you to, you know, buy an armory deck and play in it. And then from there, it's like, okay, now if you can acquire cards or whatever, we also have this higher tier event. I think it's just brilliant. And A+ work yet again by LSS on this. I also love the new Learn to Play booth setup. I was talking to Alex a little bit about it in London and then watched it get torn down. And I was like, oh, that's way cleaner. You can like probably set that entire thing up with two people. No problem. So I thought that was really well done too.
Same thing. Also continuous improvement. I mean, James has spoken about this before, and they are just putting it into action. There's no manual to any of this. You know, there's nothing they could. Okay, next chapter in the book. What do I do next? They just have to find out. And yeah, well, they go their way.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've always appreciated, in this show talking about LSS a lot, is that they're not afraid to fail. They'll try new things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay, fine, whatever. And that's the best way. And I think that, we run into this in companies a lot, in corporate America, or I think corporate anywhere, where there's this giant fear of failure. And without having the courage to fail, you'll never learn.
Well,
You'll never get better.
The difference is with LSS, they don't view it as like a fear of failure. This is the necessary evils of learning, right? Like,
right.
You can make your best educated guess, right? But at the end of the day, you have to test your hypothesis, and it might not come out the way you anticipated, but that doesn't mean it's the end or whatever. And so LSS is very good at adapting, and I routinely praise them. I still think Bright Lights was a good idea. I know a lot of people necessarily didn't like the set, but for me, it was but you wouldn't have known until you tried, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And they had to test the hypothesis of what happens if the printer forgets to print a dot on a card.
Yeah,
we found out.
Yeah. Well,
turns out
some things are intentional, others might be not, but yeah.
One little dot could fuck an entire format. Which I thought was, again, it's the fact that they just told us. They're just like, fuck it. Here's what happened. They didn't have to do that at all. But instead it's like, cat's out of the bag. Here's the transparency of it. Have fun.
And I guess it's, the creative question is why not? Why should we not try this? Why should we not communicate this? And if you don't have really a good answer for that, you do. And, why should they not have communicated it? It's...
No, exactly. They should have communicated it. But we're so used to places not. Yeah. We're so used to the opposite that something that should be the norm now feels like an outlier because it is. Yeah. It shouldn't be. This should just be, how a company treats its customers. Instead, we're used to just being run around, lied to, and told that the house is fine when it's on fire.
I think a big thing though, and it's especially rampant here in like American culture. A lot of times people high up in corporations here in America care a lot more about always being right than they do about doing what's right. And so when Logan says like, we're just not used to it, it's because here most companies would rather just not let that get out so that in the future they could just always look like, no, everything was intentional. We were always in the right. We don't make mistakes. And it's funny because American companies will very often, they pitch it as, we'll lose customer trust. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, well, the way that you're doing that is by lying to them though, right? Like that's literally built on a foundation of the opposite of trust. But that is very routinely the verbiage and the actions that you would hear here in America. So that's why it was so refreshing for Logan and I.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Agreed.
Well, Heiner, we always leave one spot open for the guest when we have one on to talk about anything they want. So, Heiner, you're up. What do you got for us?
Oh, to be honest, we are episode 180, right? So,
180.
Congrats on that. We've done our fair share in content creation, but it's not anywhere near what you guys did. 180 consecutive episodes. It's just an amazing achievement. And I would like to congratulate both of you and say on to the next 1,000 or whatnot. But that's great. And just, finding the spirit to just keep going is something that's not so easy. So I would like to support that process of you guys just going on. It's just, I wanted to let you know that. I could have, that's just me. I think it's great. So go on.
No, we appreciate it. It's really the entire thing now is just like, let's hit 200. It was funny because when we did the year, right? And that was before Darick came on the show. It was that wild, wow, we didn't think that we would do this show for more than a couple months, and here we are a year later. And then then Darick came on, and as we're getting close to episode 100 and then 104, it was okay, I'll do the 2 years, but I am not fucking doing 3. There's no way in hell that I'm going to go 3 years. That's insane. And then one day I like finally had that thing where I was just like, okay, this is the day. I'm going to take the day off. We're taking the week off. And Darick's like, or counterpoint, we could just record an episode.
It was literally it. I said,
was over a year ago.
What if we just record one? And he was like,
he was right. We could. And now we're approaching 200 weeks.
Yeah.
And then invariably 4 years. At 208, and it's so weird to think, I played Magic for 25 years. I never once did any stitch of content creation, really. I wrote some articles for a couple of sites and stuff like that. But I never did like something like this where it was consistent or whatever. I really chased it down. I didn't think of it. I played this game for 4 months and started this show. So it's obviously something that spoke to me. And then when Darick came on, it was like having the most willing participant in this madness that you could possibly find. And I think it's because it's that complement of crazies, right? Darick's crazy and my crazy just work because he knows he can annoy the shit out of me, and it makes him happy. It makes him so happy to know that he can pull the trigger at any point in time and just make me want to fucking reach through the goddamn screen and strangle him. That is how excited he gets.
Yeah, during the tattoo today, Logan, my artist was doing the tattoo, and Sophie said something about I don't know, some food combination. She was like, yeah, there was this thing, and it was, and I forget what she said, but it was like an X and a Y situation. And she was like, I wouldn't think that it would go well together, but it really did. And I said, yeah, just like me, I'm a really big fan of melon and collie. And the tattoo artist had to stop. And
you're the goddamn worst.
Yeah.
Fine. Melon and collie it is. All right, so let's hop into some listener questions. All right, we got a few here to go through. The first one is from Tim. He is asking, will there be another Heiner cosplay for German Nationals this year? And he sent the picture. So I saw Brute Heiner in all his glory. Are we doing it again? Are we running it back?
No.
No, but if you do, you have to commit to the bit and cut them off.
It's just too much around that. Yeah. The beautiful thing about the Celebrational was that we could just be there, and somebody else was running everything. And at Nationals, it's gonna be the opposite. It will be us running it. So there will be no creative space in my head to do that. Yes, but it was fantastic. Celebrational was a great experience.
Yeah, that's one that I try not to actively be jealous about things like that when other people get those opportunities. I try to just make sure that I'm celebrating the fact that they got the opportunity. But that one, it was really hard for me to look and go, because every part of me was like, man, I just fucking wish I was in New Zealand right now. That looks so incredible. And I'm very glad that that LSS did that for the pillars of this community. I thought that was just one of the coolest things that they've ever done, and I really hope they do it again. We have had Alex Norville on here saying that they are going to do it again eventually. So really excited for when they decide to do that again. Next one's from a Delusian data analyst. 2 questions. What is your favorite cocktail / beer? Now, Darick's, I know, it's a mojito. That's just easy game, easy life.
Although that blackberry mint julep I had today was pretty good, but it's still a mojito.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Okay, so a cocktail is Long Island iced tea.
Okay. You're here for a good time.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know what it was. A friend of mine just said you have to drink this, so I drank it. So,
It's a bunch of liquor in a cup.
Yeah. I learned after the fact, but it was good. It's good stuff. If the core ingredients are good, it's good. So you have to choose wisely. It can be a shit drink as well, I guess, but it can also be a good one. And it's always drink responsibly. And well, if you overdo anything, it's going to end up badly. And beer-wise, it's called Lupulus. It's a Belgian. Can I add a picture to this chat somehow?
In the Discord, you can. Yeah.
In the Discord. Okay.
Is it so it's a Belgian?
Yeah. I can put it in the chat. Just.
Yeah. Because now I'm intrigued because Belgians are some of my favorites, and I don't.
It teaches you to take care drinking as well.
Belgian quads, those come straight for your head.
This is like drink me, but if you're thirsty, drink something else.
Yeah, been down that road. St. Barnabas does that to me. ABT 12s. Those will take your head off if you're not careful.
And it's good, Why should we? Yeah.
You said Lupulos?
Yeah. I just put it in the chat. Link to.
I'll wait for it to come up. Belgian beers. Okay. Lupulus, yeah. So they looks like they have a bunch of different
I
stuff.
prefer the Lupulus Organicus. It's
okay. God, that looks delicious.
But you have to really serve it cold.
Ice cold,
and then it's just so sweet. Well, not sweet, but it's a great product.
So like for me, because I see they have a Nelson Sauvin, which is one of my favorite hop varieties here. So I would be drinking this probably infinitely, because their beer lineup is crazed.
So it's
now you've got me.
It's a microbrewery. I guess that's the term you would apply. So
yeah, this looks. That's 8.5%. Like it's going to hurt you if you're not careful.
And that's what some people need in order not to drink too much and to respect the
Fair.
beverage.
That's right. So it looks like because they do okay. So this is just unfiltered, and then re-fermented. That makes sense. And they're using Cascade, which I am a fan of.
Like the detergent?
Hops. Cascade. Fuck off.
I was gonna say I'm a Tide Pods man.
Because of course you are. But I'm looking at some of these, and I've got to find an excuse to go to Belgium with you because this looks perfect.
Let me know when you arrive. I'll pick you up.
Pick me up, because the Hibernatus looks also just because it's because it's that malty coffee and chocolate. Like, yeah, okay, man. I will do all of this. So cocktail. Cocktail's probably a perfectly prepared old fashioned. For liquor in general, my favorite is Scotch, single malt Scotch. Followed closely by good gin. Now, much like you were talking about with Long Island's, there's some really shitty gin. I'm looking at you, Tanqueray. And or Seagram's for that matter, but a good gin in a cocktail. So you're thinking like a gin and tonic is just like a basic gin and tonic, or if you're doing like like Bombay and lemonade, great. I love Bombay Sapphire. There's a bottle of it right there right now, and there's also a bottle of Scotch right there. And for beer, the favorite is hard because. There's the beer that turned me on to learning how much I love beer was this. It's a Saison white, so Belgian white, from a brewery called Funkworks that's in Colorado, and the beer is just called White. That's just the name of the beer. They don't brew it all the time, and again, they do it farmhouse style, so it's kind of wild, like the very funky. But this one was ultra crisp, which is not something you normally find in farmhouse ales, and it drank with like this insane snappiness that was ultra refreshing on a summer day. Which it was in the backyard with a friend of mine drinking this, and then as soon as it got to like the back of your tongue, you got this instant like punch of black pepper, and it was just like, this is my jam. This is something I want to drink more of. And he's like, well, that sucks because I didn't bring any more, and I'm like, okay. Turns out it's a very good brewery. This one right here, Sun King in Indianapolis, is my favorite brewery in the country. And so the things that I normally kind of go nuts over now come from there. And they do a lot of good, super hoppy beers. I like a good chewy beer. They're also, they do a bunch of Belgian quads. So stuff that's pushing that 11% that drinks way too easy. So that is a be responsible beer. And I drink those during Gen Con. And then they also, I don't usually like super malty, but they do a Scottish ale every now and again that's like a triple. I did not know it was 13% the first time I drank it, because they brew it with cinnamon. And what that does is it makes it so you don't have the rock gut. It just calms your stomach as it goes down. So I didn't feel that like bloat usually you would feel for something heavier. And so I'm like, oh, these are fine. And so after I drank the third one in like a 40-minute time span, the server's just like, and I tried to order another. She's like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, what? Why? And she's just like, do you know what the ABV on that is? I'm like, what, like a 7? She's like, that's a 13, sir. And I'm like, oh, I need a water. That's what I need, is I need a water. And she's like, yeah, much better. And so she brought me a water. But anybody that's listening to this that is going to be like at Gen Con or anything else, if you just ever are going to be in Vegas, if you want to get a beer, you just got to let me know. I am more than happy to get a beer with you. The next question that the data analyst here has is, you have to teach a new player the game from scratch with the intention of getting them to US Nats. What 3 concepts do you hammer into their head first, Darick?
So if it's not me, like with a silly answer, right? Something like make them discard all the cards or whatever. I think the important things that I would try to emphasize are, one, that all parts of the card are important, right? It's not just the text. If you're coming from other card games, a lot of times you go right to that text box because 9 times out of 10, that's the most important part of the card. But your pitch, your block, like all of it is important in Flesh and Blood for a lot of different reasons. So look at the whole card, because how you use it is going to depend on the situation, but you also need to understand that the best way to use your cards might not be caring about the text at all in any given moment. So I would start with, like, make sure you're looking at everything. The second thing, because again, most people are probably going to be timid about it, is that blocking is okay.
Bullshit, but go on.
Sure. This is why I have these conversations. It's also to remind myself, because I also don't like to block. But
math is for blockers.
Math is for blockers. But I would emphasize something like that as well, right? Because again, that's just kind of also further reinforcing the, like, look at the whole card, but also understanding that, if you can, even if you're getting less value on your card, if you're also shutting down the same amount of value on an opponent's card, right? Or if they have a very relevant on hit that you're trying to stop, or if they are, using something where this card then sets up another big play for them. Think like
mass triggers.
I was gonna say mass triggers. The daggers for some assassins, right? New specifically if they're trying to get something blue go again for free or whatever. And then So I would say look at the whole card, make sure you're utilizing everything. Blocking is okay. And then the last piece that I think try to emphasize is just the idea of understanding that your turn, even when it's not your turn, it's still your turn in Flesh and Blood. I think that's another thing that's kind of unique. You might not be the active attacker, but because you are either potentially blocking or not, and whether that also means using your equipment or not or whatever, you should still be doing, for lack of a better way to phrase it, the math of what your next turn could be, because that would also then influence I think different levels of importance or thresholds as somebody who's learning, right? So the idea being, like, if I'm at a low health total, it might be more important to block even if I like lose value. But if we're fresh in the game, right, and I have a bunch of 0 for 4s with Go Again that all block for 2, I would try to emphasize to a new player, like, look, I know it can be scary to take a bunch of damage on your turn, but these cards are going to be worth way more if you just say, I'm okay with taking this on the chin and I'm going to fire back, right? Because I've, been in instances where I've been teaching and people, sometimes if you say it's okay to block, they go the other way and they start like over blocking. Right. And so it's just trying to understand that, Flesh and Blood is hard and all of these decisions matter, and it might not seem like a big deal, but when you only have 4, maybe 5 card hands from time to time, what you do with them is so important. It's so easy to like make a misplay in Flesh and Blood that might seem minor, but it's a pretty big deal because the game is a game of inches and not miles, sort of thing. So, it'd probably be something along those lines, just trying to get them through the basics of, with an IRA deck, right? Just like, these are your values. Look at all of them. Look at your pitch value, look at your attack, look at your block, and then think to yourself, what is the best way I can use these right now and within the context of the game? Yeah.
To me, there are no sacred cows. Because when your life total is at 0, the game ends. And I had this conversation with somebody like a week or 2 ago at an event, and they died, and their opponent was at 7, and they died to a lightning press. And it's like, why didn't you block with your mask and play around lightning press? Like, I didn't want to lose my mask. And I'm like,
now you're dead.
Well, you did.
Your opponent's at 7. If you hit them 3 times, they probably went to 0. So that mass trigger doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. This is a good one, Logan, because I actually had a sort of similar conversation with Stark recently, because like I said, him and I have been playing a lot at home, and he has had that situation where he said, well, I didn't want to lose this or use it yet. And so when the game ended, I was like, you did lose it. And he's like, well, no, I didn't. And I was like, you're dead, right? Then you lost it. Like, you use it or you lose it, and you didn't use it, so you lost it because you lost the game.
And you just have to have that attitude of, because like when I was playing in the Battle Hardened last weekend, I stared at my opening hand. I won the dice roll and chose to go second. My opening hand was 2 Arc Lightnings and a Flicker Wisp and something else, and I'm in blocking position. And I'm like, fuck. Well, I guess. And so I was blocked with those cards, and it's just like, you just have to accept that's a whatever. Like, I'm here to get my value out of these things. So that's the important part of it.
You are here for a good time, not for a long time.
Oh, I'm definitely that. Yeah. Heiner, what do you have?
Yeah, I would like to just add the aspect that don't miss the after game discussion. If we're playing competitively, but in the end, let's talk about the game. Don't get up and walk away. Not if you lost, and not if you win, and certainly not if you lose. Talk about the game. Get that learning experience out of after the match.
That's just wise. That's, yes, do that. Like, have that conversation. Obviously, if your opponent seems like they are angry, maybe don't push too hard.
Well, sure, but it's not always possible. But
it's not always possible. But you should, any opportunity you get, you should absolutely
you get that
do
during
that.
the game. If they are not like, you think you can talk to them, don't try to. But if it's if it's a good game, then that's discussing what happened is so important. Two people are, and that is when you talk to someone who has played a game a year back and they can still remember their decision path. What does that say about the intensity of the experience they've had? So you're not sharing that instantly when you can? Crazy. So it's a giant potential to have your opponent, and then the game is over and you both exchange and get better players after the game. That's just immense. It's just crazy good.
Yeah, 100%. That is fantastic advice. Next question is from Charmer, that guy. He says, question for the guest, are they hiring for any leadership or IT roles that will allow an American refugee to relocate?
Well, I would love to say yes, but we're currently not set up for that. We are hoping that things will improve, and the country needs good people staying, and yeah.
Well, if I go there, I would stay there. I would not want to be coming back.
The next one is from Goat Warrior Cultist, one of our favorites here. First question is what the tariffs doing? A lot. It ain't good. We'll start there, but also for PCG, what changes in the industry do you see coming down the pipe that excite you?
So tariffs, it's same as to the rest of the world. It's just disturbing, and it's not even effective. It's completely ineffective. And, show of force, that's no force, because it gets leveled out on the other, and it's just one of the...
Oh my god. A show of force that is no force is the best description of this ever.
Yeah. So, for us, we're not getting much stuff from the States. So it's not doing much for the business, actually. It doesn't hurt us, but it's just, it's not a good sign of things how they are developing. It's not making anybody more secure. It's not making anybody more comfortable. So it doesn't add anything positive to anything. It's just
no, it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. So second question was, could you read that up again? We are in for
What changes in the industry do you see coming down the pipe that excite you?
Okay. So most of that is something you would have to discuss with Matt and Rob. We have covered the topic of machine learning. That is something I'm very interested in, and I take a look at. But the industry of grading, we've certainly reached a point where we have 3 different slab types, and that is something that is sufficient for now. So I don't see us doing a different type of slab anytime soon. And then it's improving processes and
Makes sense.
And for the game store, for the Rabbit portion, I mean, whatever comes up on new formats, it's Smash Palace is certainly going to be very
Project
Blue. So there are some things in the in the pipeline, and the next sets, we're on a high when it comes to set design. And sure, I mean, some heroes level out, go to living legend level before they were supposed to. So there is some adjustment required for sure for some part of the process. But it's like if you see 1,000 people in a single event, that's just great. And I'm very excited about being there when this develops further. And it's just a great time to be in this game. And also to get in the game. Even though, staples are expensive. Every TCG is expensive. So you can still play the same tunic you bought like 4 years ago. And there is some things that rotate in and out. So everything is just exciting to be along the sidelines or be in it currently in this game, I guess.
Yeah, I honestly think that I've had my tunics for literally 4 years. Or coming up on it. So,
Out of Wars are a different topic, not everything, but the main objective is to have a healthy state of game. You can't always have that unless you readjust, and you have to readjust because something's a bit amiss. But we all know that they are readjusting, so that is just the best things that will happen. We don't know yet. That's what I'm really sure of.
Yeah. Yep. Next one is from Rogue Noob. Why would you put your cards in prison? They're made to be played. # free cards. Free the cards. Yeah, whatever. Fuck off. People should make whatever decision they want with their own cards. End of story.
True.
But the next thing is, honestly though, how common is it grading, and in which game is it most or more common? So for PCG, what game do you see most come across for grading?
Oh well, Pokemon is strong. It's always strong.
Yeah.
It's actually a strong mix of stuff. I'm rather surprised that I don't see much Magic, but that makes sense because of the design of product and collectability. But there's a couple of that coming in new Magic. We get still old Magic, vintage Magic collections. Pokemon strong, Flesh and Blood naturally, of course, because of our position in the market. We got tons of Flesh and Blood. And whatever the game can offer in having something starting on the board, like the heroes and the equipment, and Riftbound will be coming up this year, and that's also having cards starting on the mat. So that is something we can say, yeah, well, we've got this slab you can still play with, and that's a good addition to collectability and grading, is you can still play the cards. So Pokemon strong. Weiss Schwartz is something we are getting increased numbers in submissions. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see a lot of One Piece at all?
A couple, not that many. Yeah.
Not a ton.
I'm actually kind of excited that Riftbound's already on your radar. So
what can I say?
Because I'm somebody that comes from Legends of Runeterra and was very, immersed in that. Getting, I know it's not going to be the same game, but even just potentially some sort of physical equivalent, I know is very attractive to me and a few other, folks that play
Runeterra
Flesh and Blood.
refugees.
Yeah. So, Majin, I know, is super ready.
Yeah, I think Riftbound's going to be interesting. Do you see a lot of Star Wars Unlimited or no?
Yeah, and increasingly so. They've started this across Europe, this competitive scene where we have the qualifiers. Like one of our ambassadors went to Lille, and he's playing with his showcase cards in the PCG slabs. So we hooked him up with a couple of coupons, and he could give each opponent a coupon he plays against, because they see the product when it starts, and he was having these talks with them, and then we said, yeah, why? This is $5 off your first order or something like that. So you can have the best product, and if visibility isn't there, you will not see the same effect as if it would be recognized as much as it possibly can. And that is something that will happen for Star Wars over the course of this year and next year, is that we just increase visibility when at events,
You made Darick go digging. He's digging. He's got a box.
So I know you said that you're not, in a position where you're going to be making new slabs, but with GameGenic having their deck boxes where they've got the thing that slides in, would something like, if you continue to get Star Wars stuff, make you potentially consider adding the small slit so that the slabs could slide in?
The Slim does slide in.
It does? Okay. I know I just said I don't normally slide my stuff, but I might have some showcases to send in.
And the showcases present a great opportunity we have this small NFC sticker, and we position it so that it fits the design of the card best. It's like
so you respect basically how you're going to see it.
So on the showcases, there is much information on there, and there's some spots that are just built to place the NFC sticker on.
Well, going to that now, The next one's from Clark, one of our longtime listeners and friends. For PCG, for the love of Christ, can they please publish a video showing off the new ultra-thin player slab? Is the sticker on the inside or outside? Is the sticker metal? How does the barcode work with their website? They need the exact dimension. For fuck's sake, Clark. He wants a video.
Video is on my list of things to do. And I will do it, but I can answer those questions now. I've put a link in chat again. So we have the dimensions. Okay, where do we start? Dimensions of the player slab slim. I have this in millimeters. You have to divide by 24.5 if you want to get to inches. But it's 94 millimeters by 69 millimeters by 5.5 millimeters. And a typical weight is 25 grams. So that's 0.9 ounces.
Super. Yeah.
Good question, by the way. I completely understand that this information is interesting. So we've got that on our version of the PCG homepage. As a German business, we have to be different in terms of the homepage. We have to provide much more information than anywhere else in the world. And so we've set up this page where there's some more stuff that also contains dimensions.
Premier Card Grading
.de,
right?
Yeah, there's an English version of it, so you basically, but don't wonder, we would love this to be on the same platform as all the other pages, but it's just so tricky to run everything according to law in Germany. We had to use a different design for the homepage, but it's still the same service, same product, same standards, same slabs, everything is just the same. Just don't be amazed that it looks so different. Welcome to Germany, by the way. And
we'll put a link in the show notes, so no worries.
And also, PCG offices respect their territories, so you get the same service in the States. We are not accepting submissions from anywhere else in the world, but it's just Europe for us. But this information is valid for all the other offices. So if you see these dimensions on our side, it's the same for the States and the same for Asia and everything. We are all running the same stock there. Okay, the construction of the slim slab, we've got dimensions covered. This is how the inside is built. You have the card. The card is sitting in an inner sleeve. It's a 100 micron inner sleeve, so it's not flimsy or thin. And then the NFC sticker is attached to that inner sleeve.
Okay, so it's on the inside.
It's on the inside. It's not on the outside of the player slab slim. If you look at it from the outside, it's just acrylic. It's two sides of plain acrylic. So it sits on the inner sleeve. And again, this is nothing. If you try to break out a card, which will probably result in you damaging it because it's very tricky to get out of those.
Yeah, on those I don't think you really can. Yeah.
But you will see this yourself. So it's not really rocket science there. The sticker itself is, there is an adhesive film, obviously, that makes the sticker attach to the inner sleeve. Then you have the NFC chip, and then you have metallized material. You can also, the sticker is really stiff. It's also not flimsy. There is a very thin sheet of metal somewhere inside there. I haven't further analyzed it, but it's like metallized or very thin sheet of metal. And that's basically how the sticker is built. And you take your phone, it's like you need to have activated NFC for this to work. So if you know where your antenna is in your phone, that's the biggest task here. You move your phone and the antenna area over the NFC chip, and then it reads the pop report entry. And if your phone allows for it, a browser window will open and it will bring you to the pop report. And on the pop report, you will always see the subgrades in full, because for the sticker, everything 9 and below will not show subgrades on the sticker, but it will be in the pop report. And that's just, you have so many combinations where you can have a 9. Having individual stickers for all of those combinations is just crazy. For
Right.
9.5, it's still feasible. It's a lot, but we still manage. And for 9, it's just pop report. It's upgrades.
Okay, that makes sense. So, because I'm looking now at your website specifically, and because the pop report's here, there's your info. You have the counterfeit information, grading process. All of that is here. You even go through your verification. And okay, yeah, you're actually way more thorough than virtually everybody else. And I'm assuming that's because you kind of have to be, like you said. But you kind of go through, yeah, you can kind of see the player slab slim on here. And it does give the dimensions and everything else. So yeah, it's 0.9 ounces, which is just not even an ounce. So yeah, all that information is on there, and I'll make sure to include that in the link in the show notes. But, God, that looks so clean. Like, I don't know. To me, it looks so good. I don't have any of the slims yet. Everything I have is just the player slabs, and the collector slabs. So
Yeah, you can also see it's less than half the weight of the regular player slab classic.
right. Yeah. These are, and even these are not heavy at all. Like, they're just not. But even being half this weight is just, very easy to like cart around and travel with.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're a traveling hobby, Everybody is getting on the plane, and cards are heavy themselves. So it's the metal label that's so heavy. I mean, the shell, the acrylic, of course, also adds to the weight. That's thinner for the slim, somewhat. But it's the metal label is, well, that's solid metal. It's just coated and
yeah, it is definitely. I mean, again, I think that's part of it is, when I talk about the quality of the product that comes back from PCG, is that it's exactly very, very, you can tell that it's very sturdy. You can also tell that the materials that you're using on the interiors are super high quality, because like if you look, there is an inner sleeve in here, right? It's not noticeable. And a lot of other products and a lot of other companies, it is very noticeable. You can see the inner sleeve, largely because they use flimsier product that kind of wrinkles slightly when they seal it. When you use something that's in that like 100 micron like level where it's got a little bit of stiffness to it, you just won't.
Yeah.
So instead, it comes through, and then plus the metal labels, there's no warping. You'll see in other products, because they're paper labels, you'll see the labels warp on occasion. These will never warp, and they'll always retain their original luster. So it's like, okay, this is just a much better product. Like, full stop.
Yep.
That's not me shilling. That's me literally holding one of the fucking things with another company sitting in front of me.
And I think it's great that
Sounds like something a show would say.
Just, you said you have different slabs at hand, and that is something I think is great. Compare, just get cards graded everywhere and then put everything next to another and see what you like best. It's your cards, you have to find the service if you want to have a product that somebody services. Just compare and say, okay, I like this more, or I don't like this more. It's all up to you. It's just compare, make a good comparison and see where you end up.
Because like this is still CGC, but this is their label for a Max 10, right? This is Alpha Clash, but it's a pristine 10, so their label is all kinds of fancy and all this other stuff, but in reality, it's still just a paper label with an embossment here. And you can still see on the interior where they're not even using on this one an interior sleeve. So if I were ever to take this out, it's going to get damaged. Like, no matter what. It's probably damaged inside of here. And I can't see it necessarily because there's a layer of plastic. But just another thing where using an inner sleeve is pretty important with these things. but I digress. So, and also, like, while the label looks somewhat clean, it still doesn't look near as clean as the PCG gold labels or black labels. So again, you have a superior product. Congratulations. Hashtag no free ads. So, you know, buy me a beer at some point. But I think that's time to just thank some patrons and get out of here. Heiner, what do you think? Is it time for you to get some more sleep? Being 8 a.m. now?
I guess it's time for breakfast.
Breakfast, yeah, that's true. Well, let's thank some patrons first. We have our associate producers, Aladoris, Andy, Sindra, Ejur, Jacob, Larry, Quiet Goat, Salty Sea Cat, Sofsky. Thanks, Tim. And Zaris. Then we have our executive producers, Blaze Storm, Diana, Micaiah, Pox Anus, Vintox18, and Philip. And then from there, so I don't know if you knew this, but we have a tier in our Patreon called Charger's Chamber of Charcoal. So nobody can remember Darick's name. Ever. They always say either the wrong name or they don't actually recognize him in public. And so they've called him Charger, Chamber, Charcoal, Charizard.
I was going to say Charmander is the one I get a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I made this tier with like a high ass dollar amount on it. That said, if you just subscribe to this tier for 3 months, you can be a guest host on the show. And then nobody did it for the longest time because it's a meme, right? And then Matt Wynn went and did it. And I'm a man of my word. I put him on the show. And after I did that, the floodgates opened. So now we have Brandon, you're up. Matt, thank you for doing this. Michael, who was our guest host last week in what turned out to be a wildly popular show.
Yeah.
Oren, you're up. And the Polish guy, Rich, you're up too. So now I have all these listeners that are going to be guest hosting. Why do I do this to myself? Like, why?
Because as long as we have guest hosts that we need to dedicate our time to, you can't ever take a break. But you have something to blame it on.
Oh, God. I probably hate... I know I hate that you're right.
I know.
I'm just not allowed to disappoint anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shit. Let's close this bitch up. If you need to contact the show, you can send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on BlueSky. Just search Flesh and Pod. You can also join our Discord. That link's in the show notes. You just click the link and say join, and you don't have to pay any money or anything. You can just come in. And if you want to become a member of our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod, take any paid tier, join the Discord, and then when we do our uncensored shows, because we're even more fucked up than this, you can join in, and it's fun. It's not recorded. That means that there's no wax on this, and people can just, we don't have to be beholden to the fact that sometimes we say shit that we shouldn't. Heiner, where can they find you?
Hopefully at an event near you in the very near future, like Calling Hamburg, or in the meanwhile on the internet, if you want to visit premiercardgrading.de. If you're located in Europe, that is. Otherwise, check out your local PCG office. Those are also linked on every site. So if you visit our site, you will get linked to the US office if you choose so. Otherwise, if we are at an event together, just find me. I will be at the PCG booth for a couple of hours, or strolling around and spending time with such interesting people as Logan or Darick or the Irish crew, Cuba. It's
oh dear God,
it's just such fun to be at these events. It's so many great people to just hang around with too. So yeah,
it's a great time.
That's where you can find me.
Anybody
and
join in.
White Rabbit is something that is operating mostly in Germany. So we ship to Europe, you can go to whiterabbit-cgs.de if you're interested in checking out our products. And then, maybe visit one of our events we will be holding in the future. Like Nationals has an open event on the second day. It's not just the Nationals event, so feel free to come in and play on one of our events, or check your schedule for Hamburg or Copenhagen or whatever Flesh and Blood has to offer you in the future, and this great time we're having with the events going on.
Yeah, it's really weird because one of the very first people that kind of walked up to me out of nowhere at an event and said, "Hey, aren't you Logan from Flesh and Pod?" was actually Tim, was in Baltimore. And so he walked up and he said that, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's me." He's like, "Hi, I'm one of your I've been listening for blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "That's awesome." He's like, "I'm from Germany." I'm like, "The fuck did you just say? Like, what the shit are you doing listening to me from Germany?" And he's like, "We love you guys." So I gave him a playmat and, thanked him and everything else. And
I remember that.
Best, one of the, like I said, great dude. Was a pleasure meeting him, but it was like, kind of made me go, "Oh shit, people in other countries listen to us." And so then I went and looked at the geolocations. I'm like, fuck, there's like a lot of countries that people listen to us. Holy shit. And then from there I was like, maybe one of them can get me a job, but that still hasn't worked out. But Darick, do you want to even blow up your socials, or are you just going to say something stupid like normal?
I'm going to say something stupid like normal.
I'm not going to stop you.
All right, fair enough.
That was moderate, but yeah.
Fucking hate you so much sometimes.
I know. It's charmer.com on BlueSky, and in the Discord. You should join the Discord if you are listening and have not joined the Discord. I highly recommend it because there's far funnier people than myself in there. But if you do like jokes, there is also a jokes channel. Posted one today even. So that hopefully casting events at some point here in the near future for a number of different games. It's so funny, I hadn't done anything in forever, and now I'm maybe doing like 3 or 4 events over the next 3 or 4 months. So
congrats.
We'll
allegedly.
Yeah. I said maybe.
That's fair.
It's one of those weird things, right, where they're scheduling and nothing's been like finalized yet, so I don't usually announce things until after I've like actually signed the contract. But it's just interesting that like I'd heard nothing for a long time, and now I'm getting a bunch of people reaching out. So I mean, it's a good problem to have. I'm not angry at it, but yeah,
same actually, which is weird because But Heiner, thank you very much for taking your morning and hanging out with us. Greatly appreciate the conversation and the insight. And honestly, like I said, I hope to see you sooner rather than later, because it's a great time. And if there's anything that this game has given me, it's people like you. And so I greatly appreciate the time. And you're welcome back anytime you want to come.
Thanks for having me. It was great. It's this is part of what the game's about. It's just amazing to be able to connect, and this is one way of connecting, and then advancing connections to everybody else. It's just so sweet being on this show. It's what I want to say. Sorry if I got carried away a couple of times, but it's.
The fuck are you talking about?
No, it's just thanks for the invite, and thanks for your time spending with me. And thanks for everybody listening to the ramblings for 2 hours.
I promise you did not get carried away.
No.
Okay.
No. There are Josh Scott episodes, sir, that are 3 hours long. So no, you're not even close.
Okay.
But thank you again, and everybody. I guess we'll see you next week for 181, because that's what we do around here.
Keep rolling.
Till then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.